Hello everyone, my name is Lowko, and welcome to some more StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void. Today I got another Zerg versus Terran for you, and normally I'm all about the macro focus, I'm all about the strategy, I'm all about the timing attacks and whatnot. However, in a lot of situations, you obviously need two for that party, and if your opponent is gonna go ahead and play very cheesy, like my opponent is in this particular match, you are gonna have to adjust. So, you may have already guessed by the title of the video, there's gonna be a little bit Nydus Worm action happening in this game as well. Now, it was actually a random versus random, which it's the reason why I'm like, you want to tell Race and I wanted to like do rock, paper, scissors and all that sort of stuff. He didn't want to, so, I already kind of assumed, since he doesn't want to tell me and he doesn't just say like, nah, or like, no, I wouldn't like that. He instead like, no, I don't want to do that, no. And I immediately already get the intention and the feeling right here that he is more than likely going to be a bit more cheesy. And also because he's obviously a random player, most of the random players don't actually play a very macro-focused style. So that's the very reason why I am opening up here with a gas into a spawning pool. Play very safe, play very relaxed, not trying to take any unnecessary risks. Obviously, there's a lot of like Reaper all in, there's a lot of like Marine all in, there's a lot of like cheese that your opponent can go for. And going for the gas geyser into the spawning pool is sort of like the safest all-round opener we can get. Now, as you may have already noticed by the production tab, my opponent is doing something in the Fog of War over here. If you have a sneak peek, there's gonna be a bunch of barracks already done at this point in time, and my opponent is gonna go for a gasless opener, and I'm actually not even scouting this right now with the Overlord, but my opponent is going for a gasless opener, and he's gonna try and go ahead and make as many Marines here as possible. Now, at this point in time, I'm not fully aware of it yet, and I am gonna go ahead and make my expansion, because I do plan, like I said, on playing a macro-focused style, but I do notice right now, hey, there's actually a Marine out. Normally, you do see an opener that's focused around Reapers instead, so I know a couple of things are already sort of off the charts, right? It's not really that standard anymore. Now, in Zerg vs Protoss, there's a lot of scenarios where you can go ahead and get cannon rushed and just sort of counter with a Nydus Worm, or you can go ahead and like counter a lot of the early game cheese by putting up a couple of spine crawlers on top of your ramp and then just sort of like preventing them access from your main base, and then like going for the Nydus Worm, and simply because they invested so much into the aggression, they can't actually hold on to it. Now, I noticed right off the bat here that my opponent had more Marines out than he really should have been able to, so I'm gonna go ahead here and make as many units as I possibly can. I'm gonna go ahead and make a couple of queens as well, and I'm also starting up the Baneling Nest just because, well, it's a Marine opener that will more than likely be able to kill my natural here, so I will need to break out one way or another. And I'm like, well, yeah, that thing is never gonna live. He actually committed 3 bunkers into it, and the same story we have in Zerg vs Protoss is true over here as well. He's investing a lot of early game aggression to try and finish off my natural, but my natural is only really an investment of 350 minerals, and if I cancel it, it's literally a commitment of, I think, 125? Very, very little in general, and obviously he's investing way more to try and get this to work. Now, I gotta be careful. I gotta make sure that I obviously don't just randomly die here, but I'm gonna go ahead and make my lair already. Morphing in a couple of the banelings, got my second gas going up here as well, and I know very well that this is more than likely gonna be an all-in at this point from my opponent. So, even though he obviously will have mule play, and even though he will have all kinds of, potential to transition eventually, for the moment, he is definitely not gonna be able of doing that just yet, because he's investing so much into getting all of this aggression done. And he even decided to sort of like rub salt in the wound right there by putting up a barracks in my natural. And he's just sort of trying to be really, really, cheesy here by bunkering me in. Now, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I don't really mind. Obviously, I know that I'm very well not going to be able to play a macro game anymore at this point in time, but I have still a couple of options now that we are in Legacy of the Void times. In the past, you definitely did need to, break out of this in another way or, get very lucky. But in Legacy of the Void right now, not a necessity anymore, as I can just go ahead and put up the Nydus Worm. Now, the Nydus Worm, obviously, in Legacy of the Void can't be attacked until it actually is fully deployed, and I have a nice little bit of vision right here with my Overlord that I'm going to try and use to my advantage. Now, look at the amount of stuff my opponent has at home. He's got absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, he also has a lot of Marines like sort of sitting about here, but he knows that I've got Banelings, so the chance of him actually moving up my ramp are relatively slim as well. And in a lot of scenarios, when you're like contained like this, right, the play for the Nydus Worm is absolutely incredible. Nydus Worm counters are surprisingly strong, in particular when they overinvest in the amount of aggression that they're trying to do, but they are not managing to finish off the game. Now, I do know that I'm a bit of a timer here, because there's no way I will actually be able to, gain the victory if I wait too much longer. Obviously, mules on one base, pretty scary. We already saw that second command center go down as well. But we have the Nydus going up in his base. He recognized it right now. And I'm going to try my very best to do as much damage as possible. Putting in the high energy queen in first. So I have a transfuse ready to go. I actually even have a second one ready to go as well, that I can go ahead and use on the second queen too. And at this point, we are killing him from the inside out. And I'm not going to lie, these kind of victories feel the very best. Now, I gotta be careful because obviously there's still a chance that my opponent will be able to just sort of, you know, come back towards my main base, and he will be able to do a lot of damage that way. However, one thing that I did not account for is the fact that there is actually a bit of an island on this map, right? I have no tech here, and my opponent seems to be headed towards that island. So it's sort of a race against the clock right now. I've activated my Overlord. I wanted to poop some creep over at that natural, or at that expansion, I suppose, but at this point in time, there is already a bunch of my opponent's army, or a bunch of my opponent's buildings, flying towards that direction. Now, in the meantime, there's also some defense necessary at home. I'm gonna be defending with as many units as possible, pulling all of my units, or at least the majority of my units, back into the Nydus right now with the queens as well. And I'm trying to morph in as many Banes here as possible to force my opponent out of my main, to not all of a sudden lose my own economy. In the meantime, that Overlord has arrived at the island expansion. It has started to poop creep. I will check that in just a second. Well, I guess I'll take control here. But we managed to block his expansion from ever landing on the golden minerals. And my opponent is forced to, well, I was gonna say GG out, but my opponent is forced to sort of leave the game. And I'm still in the replay here as well. I did not leave the game immediately myself, because I couldn't really believe my luck at all. But same story holds true. When you're actually being contained, be it by a cannon rush, be it by a bunker rush, be it by anything whatsoever, as long as you deny them access from your main base and therefore like killing you, consider going for a Nydus Worm. It works out pretty dang well, and if you put in a queen with high energy first, it will pop out first as well, so you can use that energy to your advantage and potentially get a transfuse off or two if you can click fast enough. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!